My name is Lloyd Summers, and today we're going to be doing an unboxing from Dell. And I'm the tech lead at Red Iron Labs, which is a very interesting VR/AR game studio operating out of Calgary, Alberta. Now, if you've been following VR closely, you'll know that it uses a lot of really intense computer processing power, especially when we're dealing in 360 footage, 8K video. It just takes a lot out of systems. And the computer I've been using at home has started to struggle. It's about 3 years old, and it's just not holding up to what I need. So I decided to buy something new. A bit of a background: if you check out my Twitter, you'll see that Dell sent me a really amazing laptop about a year ago. I won it, and I was so excited. But it's been a great tablet for just doing tablet work. And so I've been trying to replace our hardware using Dell instead of building it from scratch. And the reason I didn't want to keep building stuff from scratch is then we got to support it. At least with Dell, I can put it in a box, ship it off, and have them repair it and work on one of my other systems. And I have an amazing laptop, which has been great for VR as well. So when my desktop does go down, it's not the end of the world. This desktop I've stopped using about maybe 4 months ago, so I'm really excited to upgrade it. I got a heck of a deal, if I may say so myself. $1,855 Canadian, $1,375 American for an i9 computer with a 1070 Ti is a fantastic deal. Pretty much anything else in there at that point, it feels like it's almost a free giveaway. So we'll take a look and go through the specs, and we'll see what is in there versus what we expect to be in there, and see if Dell is being honest on what they ship. Alright, so let's take a look at what we ordered. So I ordered the XPS 8930, which is supposed to have a lot of USB 3 ports and a USB-C port, which will be really helpful because we do a lot more mobile development, especially with augmented reality, so having access to USB-C would be really nice. It's supposed to have 16 gigabytes of DDR4 at 2666 megahertz, which is okay. 2 sticks, 8 gigabyte. So it'll be interesting to see what's in there for ports. I want to max out the RAM as much as possible. We do a lot of really big 360 video editing, and so having a lot of RAM is quite helpful. For disk drives, it does have a 256 gigabyte M2 solid state drive. I'll be interested to see which brand that is. I'm willing to bet it's Western Digital. And then there's also a 2 terabyte 7200 RPM hard drive, which might be, I'm assuming is Western Digital or Seagate, because I mean consumer grade, low cost hard drives. 7200 RPM is not too bad. I tend to avoid spinning disks as much as I can, but they are nice for long-term storage, or rather cheap large storage. Sorry. And 7200 is not bad. You want to avoid the 5400. That's where it's a bit slower of a hard drive. 7200 is not bad. Anything above that's even better. What's really interesting is it also is supposed to have a DVD rewritable, which is certainly a nice plus to have. There is a NVIDIA GTX 1070 Ti 8 gigabyte. I'll be really interested to see the ports that are on the 1070 Ti as well as the actual brand. So I couldn't find any of that information on the Dell website, and that'll tell me whether or not this video card on its own is going to be good enough, or if I have to take my other 1070 I have and put it in there as well. Unfortunately, that one's a 1070 overclock, not a Ti, from Asus, I think it was. So I don't know if I can SLI them or what'll happen if I try to SLI them, but I could use that to add more ports if I need. Running through the list quickly, the other stuff we really care about would probably just be the processor. So it's an i9 9900K 8-core. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I believe the K means that it can't really be overclocked, which is perfectly fine. An i9 is more than good enough. Other than that, there's a bunch of stuff on there we'll have to remove. Obviously, I don't want to keep McAfee or any of that kind of stuff. We may even just re-image the OS, but we'll kind of go from there. So it'll be really interesting to see. Obviously, that's a really great deal for $1,855. So it'll be really interesting to see when I open this up how they're cutting that so low. I mean, most of the components there come to a total much higher than that. So I'll be interested to see how they're saving some money there. So I'm going to keep this off camera, but it's a big box. First things first. This looks like kind of your standard stuff. It's got a keyboard. We'll take that out. Power cable. A mouse. Those are really nice additional items. When you order the Alienware, it doesn't come with those, so seeing those come with the desktop is certainly a nice plus. Now, they likely aren't going to be world-changing keyboard and mice, but these basic ones are really good for keeping around the office for when you need a spare mouse. The mouse itself. Okay. So it's not actually that bad. It's got a button on the side for a back button, which is really helpful. A lot of times when I'm coding, being able to hit that button and have it go back to the last function I'm working on is quite helpful. Looks like it's got a scroll wheel. And hopefully that's a speed adjustment. We'll see. And let's see what we got for a keyboard. Okay. It's probably hard to see, but this is kind of your stereotypical hybrid where it's almost a chiclet keyboard, but not quite, which will be kind of nice. So there you go. Nothing super fancy. The plastic looks okay. I mean, it's a cheap keyboard, but certainly more than good enough to type with if you need. All right, so next we have the big box. Nice, straightforward foam. This is the front of the unit. All right, well, I peeled the plastic off, but here is what we've got. So on the front, you've got your power button. This would be your micro SD card. Well, actually, I guess SD card because it's a big one. You've got a headset jack and a microphone jack. A USB-C port, which is really handy to have on the front. And then your three, I believe, USB-C. It says SS across the front. So pretty straightforward. There's your DVD burner. I think we'll take it open it up and double check. The Dell logo, the XPS logo, and then something inside logo. Who knows? And that's it for the front. I can see at the top that there are fans on the top. We'll see what's on the side. It's really interesting because I want to see how they're cooling down the i9 and what motherboard they put in here with it. Now on this side, you got your standard power jack. You've got your cable lock. This would be network port, USB 2s. This one is your display port, I believe, HDMI, USB-C, 4 more USB 3s. These audio ports, I took a quick look at them. I would assume they are speaker microphone line in, but I didn't recognize the logos on them. Maybe it's just me, I'm getting old. Here are your lock switches. And what I thought was interesting was I finally took a look at the video card, at least on the outside, to see what ports it supports. And it supports DVI, DisplayPort, HDMI, DisplayPort. And then you got a DVI port. So it's got one HDMI, one DVI, 3 display ports. And then you've got a built-in HDMI as well, which is okay, but that's not ideal. My monitors are Samsung and LG, and they all need HDMI. So I might actually go ahead and add another 1070 in there just to run the displays, and then let the 1070 Ti run my video processing for 360 as well as VR. But hey, that'd be really cool. So that's the ports on the outside. Now let's take a look at the inside and see if what we got is actually the hardware that's inside here, and if so, what brands they chose to use to get that price so low. So to open one of these up, You'll usually have to make sure this is up and this is up. Down is locked, open, and that should pop open the side cover. What's interesting is the side cover is aluminum, but this side is plastic. Usually it's aluminum or plastic. It's not often you see both. Now,
before we can go,
there's some things we can only get to while this thing is closed, and I'll get into that in a minute. But the important one is that the main hard drive is here, and the CD-ROM, or the DVD burner, is up at the top. So to get at this, we're going to pull this guy off and pull this guy off. Now, it has toolless installation, so pinch and pull. And it might be hard to see, but that's a Seagate ST2000 DM001. This is a very common consumer grade hard drive. If you search by lowest price, these are the type that go on sale quite often and are usually the best deal online. It's a little bit of a boost, nothing like an SSD. But for what we need, that's perfectly fine. You want to use that for big files, that kind of thing. I use a lot of these for backups, large data, binaries, test applications, and especially lots of video editing. It's a place to store them. I do all the work off the SSD and then move it to these ones afterwards, because I found that the 5400 sometimes can't keep up with the 8K video modifications, and what'll happen is it's trying to write too fast and you'll lose data when you go to save your videos. So do your video editing on SSDs first and then copy them over just to be safe. To open this one up, it tells you to make sure that those locking clips are all in the up position and then pull forward. Go carefully because the cables are right in where the metal turns, and some of this metal's a little sharp. It'll feel resistant, but believe it or not, that's actually okay. So there we go. Now we're looking at the insides. So in here, behind this fan, which is not, doesn't look like it's liquid cooled. I was interested to see how they're keeping the i9 cold, because a normal fan probably to me wouldn't be enough. But what they have is a fan. If you look at the size of the heatsink across the top of that fan, that CPU fan, that's pretty impressive. There are 4 slots for memory sticks, so we can upgrade. The M2 is behind the PCI slots, so it runs kind of right along in there all the way in the back. I was wrong. When I looked at the logo, when I look at that, it says Samsung 256 gigabyte, so I was wrong. They didn't use Western Digital for that one. And then this is your video card. So to get at this, that guy pulls off. In the back, there's a little clip. You got to push really hard with the clips on the Dell I found, and then he just pops right off. So there you go. Now be very careful putting this back in. There is a little WAN card that I didn't know was built into this that sits in the back, and the antenna cables run right near the top of this card. So be careful for that. The brand of the 1070 Ti is GeForce GTX 1070 Ti, which is really nice to see. So that's an actual GeForce, not a rebrand. That WAN card's interesting, so that probably allows for Bluetooth and wireless internet, which is really rare in a desktop to have built in, and a really nice to have feature. So that's really it for that. So far it looks like everything we wanted is in there. So I'll go ahead and close this up. Oh, let's put this back in first. Let's put this back in first the right direction. There you go. And if you want to have more stability on your video card, you could probably move this over to one of the farther slots. And that's really it. Everything's reassembled. I hope. If not, I'm sure somebody will notice in the comments. And last but not least, so that was it. That was the big teardown. Hard to read through there, but there is a fan on the top, CPU fan here. I didn't really see if there's any fans down there. It seems pretty light on the fan side, so it'll be interesting to see how it holds up to the temperature. Now I'm going to go ahead and boot it up and turn it on. You can see right there a size comparison between them. So that's the older custom AMD one I had built in the past. It has 2 video cards that are both VR capable compared to the brand new Dell. So one thing I did find was interesting, I looked at the Dell closer. The PCI support cards won't actually support another full-size video card. So the 1070 Ti lives there now, and that's its new home. Whereas this motherboard's a full-size motherboard, and it can fit multiple full-size cards. But I wanted to show you kind of the size difference. Keep in mind this one has a liquid cooler in the back, extra fans across the top.
Let it go! Let it go! Can't hold it back anymore!
So next we got to install the cables. This is pretty straightforward. The important part is internet, power, HDMI, and your keyboards. I already have a nice long cable down here. Network. The only HDMI slot on that card. USB 3 extender and my keyboard and mouse. I'll go ahead and pause the video for now, and I'll resume once we're a little bit further along in the installation process. So something to watch out for while you're setting up your computer is it looks like McAfee and Dell have added an installation screen that asked for my personal contact information because it's trying to give it to McAfee, which is not something that I'm comfortable with. So when you're filling out the forms to install the software, just take a minute to make sure that everything you're filling out makes sense and matches what you want it to do. This isn't ideal. Normally I would show you this in a video so that you can see the direct screen, but I didn't want to install all that software just yet, because all we're really doing is checking the system specs, and then we're going to do a quick verification. So I apologize in advance because it's probably going to be hard for you to see a lot of this stuff, but it does have the i9 9900K, which is absolutely fantastic. The RAM is 16 gigabytes, and the video card, again, probably hard for you to see, is a GeForce GTX 1070 Ti. So we're actually looking pretty good. The hard drives, 221 gigabytes available, 1.81 terabytes available, that's actually correct, and DVD rewritable. Let me make that full screen because then it'll fade it. There you go. So SSD, spinning, and the rewritable. The Windows drive did install some things. I'm pretty sure that's for Dell's bootloader. Benchmark. Who knows? All right, so it's hard for you to see, but I'm getting 220 frames per second, 240. I am getting the occasional artifact on the display. That could just be because the drivers need to be updated. So it's reading 210, 220, 230, 240. Benchmark results are super. So average frame rate was 223. Target was 109. Oculus Rift needs 81. So you can see average versus target, we're pretty much on the high end there. It picked up the CPU, it verified the GPU, all of that kind of stuff, and I'd have to say that I'm pretty happy with that. So here's our score. We're really close to what they consider a premium high-end PC, which is absolutely fantastic. So I'm quite happy with that. With that said, I think it's confirmed that this is certainly quite the deal for $18.55 Canadian or $13.75 American. Great deal for a computer, quite happy with it, highly recommend it, and recommend other people get it as well.